last meeting of the year. George Friday here with the Southern Piedmont branch. And let's start with check-ins and then I'll share the agenda on screen. Let's start with Teresa, then Alan. And the check-in, if you have any, briefly, 30 seconds, no more than a minute, of if there's any family tradition that you have at the end of the year you'd like to share. Teresa, then Alan.
If you could go with Alan while I'm eating here. So, and I'll come after Alan.
No problem. Go ahead, Alan.
Okay, I'm Alan Haber in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Michigan. And we been developing the commons in Ann Arbor, and we planted a holiday tree. And we're going to decorate it on the solstice for Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and any other holiday that people want to celebrate. And we've been doing this. This will be our third year, so it is kind of a family for the commons tradition in Ann Arbor.
Very nice, thanks. Are you ready, Teresa?
Yeah, Teresa Elamine, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, Columbus, Georgia. I'm actually in Atlanta for a couple of days of R&R at a fabulous Staybridge Suites hotel. So I'm gonna sleep well and read a lot and work as little as possible. And my family would get together at my mother's, but I'm the last one standing in my family. All my siblings, parents are deceased. So I celebrate Kwanzaa after Christmas on the 26th of December to the 1st of January. And that's kind of the tradition in my political community, Kwanzaa. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I was letting someone in. Fatima and then Robin. You're muted, sis.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Greetings, everybody. Habari Gani. I celebrate Kwanzaa also.
Okay, thank you. Robin and then Philip.
Yes, hello, Robin Lloyd from Burlington, Vermont, Wilf. And in my family, my sister is a musician and wonderful at just playing whatever tune on the piano. So we usually get together and sing Christmas carols, and then we're all we're old Pete Seeger lovers. So we go from his songbook and all the labor songs and so on. And that's wonderful. So we're going to do that by Zoom because health concerns, and we'll have to work it out that way. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. And Philip?
Well, good morning. And I would have to say my family doesn't have any Christmas traditions. We grew up in the toy business. We managed a chain of toy stores, and our only celebration was it was over. That was it.
All right, thanks. Philip, do you need all three of these devices to be with us?
Yes, I do. Unless you want to buy me a new computer.
No, I'm not
monitor.
trying to do that. Thank you. Glad to have you here. Sandra and then Marlena. Your check-in, Sandra, is your name, your branch, and in a minute or less, any traditions that your family had between now and the end of the year.
Okay, my name is Sandra Folster, and I'm loosely connected to the Germantown WILF. But I've been very interested in reparations, so that's why I came. Family traditions, one nice thing we do, in fact, I just did it. Women in Transition has a thing where you adopt a family. And so my family gets money together to donate so that a couple of families, we send them a gift card so they can celebrate Christmas. So we like that. I think just being together as a family is so important. And hopefully it'll work out if everyone's well, because my granddaughter who's adopted has allergies and asthma. So we're very, very careful around her, and she's now 11. So anyway, but it's always good to be with family. Yes.
That's right. Marlena.
Hello, everyone. Marlena Santoyo, Greater Philadelphia branch. And family traditions. Well, I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to leave that one for now.
Okay, not a problem at all.
Thank you.
Joined by Pat O'Brien. Kenneth Henry is with us, who is our speaker today, our guest. And I was waiting till the end for Kenneth to go. So I just wanted you to know that, Kenneth, I'm not ignoring you. I'm highlighting you, I hope. And so Pat, if you will check in, let us know where you are, which branch you're a member of, and if you want to share if your family had any traditions at this time of year.
No, I'm from Cape Cod, Will, and my family has traditions, but I don't, so I don't really share those anymore. And so anyway, that's all.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. I fell asleep sitting here.
It happens. So I'm George. I'm in the Southern Piedmont branch, and we did have the family tradition of putting up our tree on Christmas Eve. That started because we could get them for free on Christmas Eve. We couldn't really afford to buy presents or lights or anything before then anyway, the last paycheck of the season or whatever my dad had. So that's our tradition still. Even if we could do it sooner, we won't, because we do it on Christmas Eve. My favorite memory is taking the Christmas tree down one year on Valentine's Day. So we've got one more guest, Kim Ford, and we'll give Kim a chance to check in, possibly when she's her audio's here, and after we hear, she'll be the first person after we hear from our guest, Kenneth Henry, because I don't want to put that off any longer. My deep apologies, Sister Henry. I do not have a bio for you that I could put as introduction. So if you could, in 2 minutes or less, Sister Fatima, introduce Sister Henry for us, I would be most appreciative. Thank you.
My sister, one of my favorite ones, Kenneth Henry, happens to be our national female co-chair for the National Cobra, National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And she is a national and international traveler. She has vast experience in corporate America and administration.
Y'all have been very helpful.
To talk to us about reparations. Today. So I think once you hear from her directly, that will speak for itself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Sister Henry, we'll want to hear from you now, and I want to let you know that you have 10 minutes to share with us, and I will be your support person around that time, meaning that after 5 minutes, I'll come on camera. I know I look scary. And I'll let you know, Sister Henry, you got 5 minutes left of your 10. And then when you have 2 minutes left of your 10, and when the 10 minutes is up, I will mute you. All right. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you so very much for the space and the invitation. I'm not going to bore you talking about me when what's important is that you hear about HR 40, reparations, and NCOBRA. I came to NCOBRA 7 years ago. When I came to NCOBRA 7 years ago, the highest number of co-sponsors for HR 40 ever was 45 co-sponsors. Today, I'm proud to announce that we have 217 confirmed co-sponsor supporters. Today, I'm also proud to announce that in 2020, we were able to get a Senate companion bill so that hopefully we would have had bicameral legislative actions. That Senate bill was introduced and sponsored by Senator Cory Booker. The sad thing about this process is even in 2020, we had 173 co-sponsors. If you cannot get your bill through the entire process, which normally is you have a hearing, you go to committee. If you can get favorably voted out of committee, then you go to the floor for debates and a vote. We were not able to do that, although we had 173 co-sponsors in 2020. The sad thing is, even with that higher number, if you cannot get through the process on December 31st, at the end of that legislative session, the clock resets. So December 15th, we knew the clock was going to reset come 2021. I spent 2 weeks rallying around to get new co-sponsors. When Sheila Jackson Lee came back to the session on January 3rd, 2021, I gave her 118 co-sponsors. That is a lot of work, and that's all you do. You're constantly reaching out to legislators. You're constantly reaching out to their staff, asking them to get their elected officials to come on board as a co-sponsor. During 2019, we had a hearing. We were excited. However, as I said, we closed out the session with 173 co-sponsors in 2020. Why did it not move? House leadership. Plain and simple, House leadership. So in 2021, with 118 co-sponsors, we were excited. We've had a hearing. We got into committee. We were voted unanimously out of the committee. And we thought that the next step would be we would go to the floor for debates. Never happened. Why did it not happen? Again, House leadership. We decided we needed an external strategy, so we began to coalesce with other same-minded groups, and we ended up standing up a Why We Can't Wait campaign. We sent to House leadership a letter with 428 signatories. Mostly they were NGOs, organizations, and other groups of support. However, we had some Hollywood support staff. For example, Rosario Dawson signed on, Alyssa Milano, Susan Sarando, Danny Glover, and a host of others. It did not move House leadership at all. So we then continuing to build on our external strategies, we created a letter to go to the White House. We sent a letter to the White House asking the White House to please, please, please advance HR 40, either push it by urging his congressional folk to do what they needed to do, or to give us an executive order. That letter went with 328 signatories. It did nothing. The White House has not responded, nor has House leadership. So we decided to get a little bit crazy. Last summer, meaning summer 2022, we camped out on the White House South Lawn. We had a Pan-African flag of flowers. And the only thing that happened, Secret Service did what they do well. They chased us off of the White House lawn every once in a while just to antagonize us. We also, this year, had the distinct honor of being able to participate in a White House roundtable. And the people who facilitated that White House roundtable, none of them are at the White House now. It was headed by Cedric Richmond's Office of Engagement. Nothing happened from that. As a matter of fact, after we did it, we never even got an acknowledgement that it ever happened. Then we had the honor and the pleasure of accompanying the Democrats who live abroad, but they have an opportunity to vote in elections stateside. They crafted a HR 40 resolution, and I had the honor and the privilege of accompanying them when the DNC had their winter session. It was introduced for consideration for the DNC to vote on. They voted unanimously to make it a permanent part of their resolution platform. Did nothing. House leadership said, we're not impressed. What do I mean by House leadership? Those are your three leaders: the whip, Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, 5th Congressional District, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and Steny Hoyer, the admin person who controls the calendar. That means that if we cannot get them to put HR 40 on the calendar and take it to the floor with Congressman Clyburn confirming that we have the 217 votes we say we have, it does not go anywhere. And to be honest, we have some Republicans who have not allowed their names to appear on HR 40, but I have letters of commitment from them that if it goes to the floor, they will indeed stand up and say that they support HR 40 and reparations. So sadly, we are going to have to reset the clock again this year with the makeup of Congress being what it will be come 2023. There's no way we're going to get 217 supporters for HR 40 in the upcoming congressional session. We are thinking that hopefully some of our external strategies with our letters and the fact that we were able to get on one letter 425 signatories, and on the second letter, and the only reason it's less on the second letter, we had less time to put the letter together and ask for signatories. At this point, the only way forward is to get an executive order. We don't have enough time in the 2023-2024 legislative session, and we don't want to take the gamble that we know who will be in the West Wing come 2025. Even with an executive order, we are taking a gamble because it takes 18 months for the commission to do everything they need to do. And after those 18 months, we need to get it signed off on. The commission's remedies would be such that they would have to be legislated. Everything goes back to the Congress for their review, and it has to be legislated upon. So at this point, if we cannot get an executive order from the White House by February, all the work that we do, we'll be doing basically as symbolism. And I'm going to stop there. I think my time is just about up. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please raise your hand or type questions in the chat. But before I go to the questions, I want to give Kim Ford one of our newest members, to check in. Let us know, Kim, where you are, and just in 30 seconds or so, anything else you'd like to share, if you can.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. My name is Kim Ford, and I hail from New Orleans, Louisiana. And I am so glad to be in participation and being able to listen on today. And I look forward to being actively involved in the future. And if I have a question, I would ask, so what can this group do going forward to provide support? And because I'm real big on supporting and, you know, people being and community involvement and work community supporting community. So could you tell us what you would like to see happening with this group?
Thanks so much for that question, Kim. And later in our agenda, as the individual branches give their updates, you'll hear what's going on, and it may inspire you or provide the information that you want. I see Teresa Elamine's hand. Also,
Thank you.
go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, George. Sister Kenneth, I think it's important to let everyone know, because I'm not sure that everyone knows. HR 40 was first introduced in 1989 by our ancestor, John Conyers. So he's the father of HR 40. And when the Congressional Black Caucus would have the annual conferences, he told us, when I'm head of judiciary, I'm gonna get it out of committee and get it to the floor for a vote. Well, in the Obama years, they had the leadership, but Nancy Pelosi made she burn. In 2014, when we were celebrating Freedom Summer, and Eleanor Holmes Norton and lots of other members of the Congressional Black Caucus were present in Mississippi, I confronted Eleanor Holmes Norton and all of those folks, Clyburn, and I said, we know what happened and why it didn't get to the floor, because when I asked John Conyers, he said Nancy Pelosi said no. Nancy Pelosi blocked HR 40 the whole time she was in leadership. So Sister Kenneth, I'm hoping that under Kareem, is it Hakeem Jeffries, that even though they're in the minority, the stunts that the Republican Party tried in this last election, i.e. Herschel Walker, they're trying to get more of the Black vote. So I wouldn't give up on this slim majority in the House now, given the trouble that the Republicans are in. So I think we do need more strategizing inside of Cobra about what's possible, because Nancy Pelosi blocked it. So even if they had the majority on the Democratic side, it was never getting out under Nancy Pelosi. So now that our brother is the minority leader, let's see what we can do. But I thought it important for people to know that bit of information about Nancy Pelosi. And also that John Conyers is the father of the study bill, the reparations study bill. And now Sheila Jackson Lee is moving it in the House, and Cory Booker still in the Senate. So I think we have a better chance, Kenneth, based on the political situation for the Republicans. They're trying very hard to get Black votes. So let's see what Lindsey Graham can do for us. Thank you.
If I can respond to that, I'm trying today to be politically correct. I've already slammed somebody this week and called them out real big. So today I'm trying to be politically correct, and I purposely refrained from speaking about you all, Speaker of the House. Another piece of this, not just that it's Nancy Pelosi, she does call the shots. However, one of the steps in this process is the votes have to be whipped. And what that means is that the whip has to reach out and touch every single one that we say is a co-sponsor, and he has to confirm that they are indeed a yes vote. And Congressman Clyburn has straight up and down refused to whip those votes. So he is the first boulder that we have not been able to get over. And we have had folk calling his office. We have tried to get meetings, and the meetings we've gotten, he said, well, I don't know what the problem is, but he also is someone who is an advocate of race neutral legislation. And it has been impossible to work around him. So I agree with you. Hopefully the new House leadership will be more open-minded and amenable to working together. I have worked with
Well, Sister Candace, hold on, let me push back. Because Nancy Pelosi told Clyburn he better not do it. The same thing she did with John Conyers. So I don't know what you mean about politically correct. The correct thing is to tell the truth. And Nancy Pelosi was the leader, and she told them no, no, no. And they followed her leadership. So it's not on Clyburn that much. And we do have to move on because Robin has had her hand up a lot. But that political correctness you're talking about, in this group, we tell the truth. And that's what's politically correct, the truth. And what I said was the truth about Nancy Pelosi. So George, if you could call on Robin Lloyd, I would appreciate it.
We also have a question in the chat. So Robin, you go, and then I'll read the question that's in the chat.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Henry, for your report. I first heard about Uncobra when I was at the Durban conference in 2002 and met up with Ajatora. I'm not quite sure how to say her name, but she was, I believe, the president of Uncobra at that time for quite a while. So I have two little questions. One is, could you just tell us more about Uncobra, how it's developing? Do you have lots of chapters and whatnot? And also, has the wording of HR 40 shifted over time, or is it pretty much what it was at the beginning when it was introduced?
Sure. The wording of HR 40 was rewritten in 2016. It is no longer considered to be a study bill. It is considered to be a remedy bill. We were asking that the commission look to see what the remedies would be that would redress the harms of 400 plus years of pernicious history and current day vestiges. And as far as Uncobra is concerned, it was started in 1987, and its mission at that time, and it remains the same, is to get reparations for our people using the legislative tool of HR 40. We have, as you see, I think Sister Fatima and Sister Kim are in Cobra local chapters in New Orleans. We have a local chapter in Baton Rouge. So throughout, we have local chapters in the various states. We also have the national chapter that is comprised of members from the various local chapters, and some of us are not in local chapters. I'm not attached to a local chapter. The makeup is that there is a national co-chair seat that is comprised of a male and a female. We co-share that seat. There's a treasurer and a secretary. There are 22 other board members who represent the various commissions. We have 9 commissions. Each commission has a male and a female co-chair. Some of them have some vacancies right now. And we have 3 members at large. Our international commission just came back from Geneva, and they were in Barbados earlier this year. All of the commissions are very actively involved.
Thank you so much, Sister Henry. The question in the chat is from Marlena, and she asks, it would be good to understand the specifics of why Pelosi and others block HR 40. So Sister Henry, what would you say to that?
What we get, and I want to go back and say, when I say politically correct, I'm not particularly talking about anything that has to do with House leadership. I'm simply saying I've already called them out big this week. What we get from House leadership is that to move forward on a bill that talks about reparations would splinter the support that is necessary for the party to do what the party needs to do. We've also heard that rather than call it reparations, perhaps if we were open to calling this something other than reparations, maybe there would be greater support. And until that happens, there's the concern that House leadership would be losing their foothold if they put a bill on up for debates on the floor that speaks to reparations, and reparations, of course, is not race neutral. So those are the smoke screens that we deal with.
Okay, thanks so much. I don't see another question in the chat.
Well,
And
George,
yes, ma'am.
dear sister, you've lost track of the time. We had 20 minutes for this portion with our guest, Sister Henry. And we do have other items on the agenda. And I was the person who called out Nancy Pelosi. And what Sister Kenneth Henry is describing is the failure of the Democratic Party to respect the full support of Black people because they cannot win without us. But when it comes time to pass in the Voting Rights Act, when it comes time to reparations, they don't do what they should do for us. And we can no longer keep allowing that to go on, Sister Henry, Sister Fatima. We have to say what is the truth. And we have to ask the Congressional Black Caucus to stand up to the white supremacy and racism in the Democratic Party. Those are the facts, which I think most people in the revolutionary liberation movement would not dispute. So George, if we could move the agenda because you've lost track of the time. Sorry,
Thanks
sister.
so much. Sister Henry began at 16 after the hour, so we're only at this point 3 minutes over that 20 minutes, but we're okay. Time for us now to hear from our branches. If you have an update around the UN decade and reparations in your branch, let us know. You've got 3 minutes each, and you don't have to take that much time. And these are updates since we last met. We've heard from folks in New Orleans. Let's start in this order, Alan, then Joan. And I will let you know when you've got 1 minute left. Go ahead, Alan.
Well, yeah, I'm in Ann Arbor. Our organizational focus has been on creating a community commons in the center of the city and introducing that into the bicentennial celebrations Ann Arbor from 1824 to 1924 to 2024. So our bicentennial corresponds with the end of the decade for people of African descent. And we are introducing this question into the preparations for the bicentennial and seeking that there be a representative of the UN Declaration as part of the bicentennial committee. And we're also seeking to shift the description of what are the great achievements of our little town in its 200 years from so much of self-congratulation to what are the needs that have to be addressed in our 3rd century, reparations being one, relations with indigenous people being another, and dealing with the calamity of the life system as a whole being a 3rd. And seeking to organize the discussions around the various institutions that have developed in the city, medical, education, finance, housing, and so on, manufacturing, agriculture. In each of which there has been discrimination and injustice, and in each of which repair is needed. So we're seeking to shift it toward an institutional analysis or reflection on the history of the town. And we do have a interesting development. Somebody sent us a from Asheville, the 1 minute left.
Really?
A history of the Asheville Jewish community is seen from its cemetery. And it seems that what are all the names? Who are these people that got stones? And it seems that that's something that we could well do in Ann Arbor and giving a sense of the history of this town and who are the people that made some impress. So that's enough. I'm recovering from the dread disease, as is Odile, and the Ann Arbor political scene is just a little bit more conservative and reactionary than the leadership of the House Democratic Party. It's not a good political situation. There is now one African-American person.
Joan, and I don't know your branch, Sandra, but you're next if you're not in Joan branch. So Joan and then Sandra.
Okay, I'm
One of the
not going to be
ways
able
that
to, I'm not going to be able to report except for the fact that
society
I
has been
got
able
on the, for yesterday and
folks
today,
from
I've been
having
on the
access to infrastructure.
broadcast or whatever you want to call it of the
By
California
putting us in
Reparations Task Force. And
in communities
they
where we are not
are
given any services.
currently ongoing,
And
and I
so
don't know
when
how to shut
we
that
have to be able
down
to
or
move
stop,
Okay,
lower the
okay, yeah,
volume.
it's really
And
crazy.
also, the same thing happened apparently to Daniel Ellsberg this morning when I was on a different thing
people can easily
about
move about and be mobile.
political prisoner told us about drone
and
stuff.
track.
Daniel,
I'm
Hay.
sorry, Joan. It's
So I'm
too
going
hard to hear you.
I'm going to mute.
Yeah, Joan, I heard you that you were going to mute and I got you a few seconds ahead of time just for mental health. It's a lot. So thanks for being here. California is dealing with a lot. Sandra, I don't know your branch. I know you said it earlier, I missed it. But if you can go and then we'll get, I think Marlena is from the Philadelphia branch. Someone here is. So do you want to go ahead? Oh my goodness. Oh, Sandra. You need to unmute. You've got up to 3 minutes. Oh, and Teresa's hand is up. Teresa should go after you because I didn't see her hand till now.
I'm in the Philadelphia area. I'm not really active. The reason that I signed up for this is that I have been writing about reparations. I've been trying to get, opinion pieces in newspapers with no luck. But I'm going to keep trying because I think that one way of creating changes, altering public opinion. So I do a lot of writing, so I will continue doing that. So I'm also an observer here and see what I can learn to support the whole process.
Are you a member of WILF US, Sandra?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you. That was less than a minute, and I'm most grateful. Teresa, and then Marlena. I called your wrong branch. Go ahead, Teresa.
Well, Marlena is also in the Philadelphia branch, if I remember correctly. So maybe she should go ahead and then I will go.
Okay. Any
All
updates
right.
since our last meeting, Marlena?
Well, no, this is something that just occurred to me because basically we're looking for ways and tactics to forward the issue of reparations. And it occurred to me that Philadelphia, where I'm from, and other cities have made their cities to be sanctuary cities welcoming refugees, welcoming people who've been maligned, frequently suffered from military and coups, etc. And so that might be one way of tying in, because whether it's tying in Black Lives Matter and the notion of community with Latinos, with any and every group, be they on the negative end of what our government's doing, are otherwise. I think, let's face it, there's a lot of people in wealth that are white and privileged. Well, we also want to bring in everyone. And of course, there's progressive and conservatives, and then there's those that are in between. And we can aim for those who are in between, because I think we already have the progressives, or many of them. Thank you.
George, please start my time. I'll try to be under 3 minutes. But I would say to Marlena and all our other allies of European descent in the meeting, that we can never lose sight of the fact that the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America is about reparations for the descendants of enslaved Africans. And that is the narrow focus, Marlena. Reparations that we're talking about with HR 40 within COBRA is for the descendants of enslaved Africans. There's no other people that was brought across the world in ships and made slaves to build this country. No other people but Africans. So that's what it's about. In Columbus, Georgia, we're determined to pass a reparations ordinance. I spoke before the city council on Tuesday the 13th, and based on our small task force, I notified the city council that we have 2 priority injury areas: criminal justice and housing. So we are going to take until probably close to the end of the decade to pass the ordinance. I was feeling a little ambitious a few months ago, but I realized it's going to take longer. So we have all agreed, Sister Kenneth, that we would try to pass reparations ordinances in Ann Arbor, in Burlington, in San Jose, in San Francisco, and in Charlotte. We want to do that by the end of the UN decade, which would be by December 31st of 2024. So that is the new deadline for the Fannie Lou Hamer branch to pass an ordinance in Columbus, Georgia, or the Columbus Consolidated Government. So we've already started, and we are in the agitation mode with the city council. But the mayor and everybody knows we're coming. Thank you, ma'am. I'm done.
Thank you so much. We have left Philip, Cole, and Robin to go, and myself. And to keep us to time, we want updates since last we met in November, new information, and we have 2 minutes each now. So Philip, you can start. I'll tell you when you've got a minute.
Okay, I just want to report from California that the California Reparations Study from the legislature has come out with their interim report on preliminary recommendations. And the legislation title is AB 3121. It's rather extensive, so if you go to Google and look up 2022 AB 3121, you can see this interim report. It's much too detailed to go into on this call, but it does address how to apply reparations, and also it addresses a lot of the ancillary problems with illegal slavery in California by involuntary servitude within the prison system, and they're trying to eliminate that. So hopefully some of these recommendations are taken up, and hopefully one of them is not paying fair market wages for prisoners, because that is a recipe for bribery, corruption, and death, which I personally have experience of that happening when prisoners have been paid fair market wages. It's a complicated issue. It needs to be addressed. It's not that people don't deserve fair market wage, but in a prison system, it creates a huge, huge problem. So they need to get around that. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin, do you have an update for your state since we last met?
Well, just to say that we are one of the states that voted down slavery, believe it or not. In other words, there was something in our Constitution that slavery was forbidden except for certain conditions, and so we got rid of those. And meanwhile, we're working on reparations both in the city of Burlington and the state. Excuse me. And we have some strong folks following that and pushing that all along. So I hope to have more to report in the months ahead.
Okay, thanks. For me, in the Southern Piedmont, next month on the 16th, MLK Day in Charlotte, we're going to have a 4-hour celebration and workshop event. And in the afternoon, well, it all is in the afternoon, but after the first hour or so, we're going to have work groups. And in those work groups, we're going to take on the triple evils, and remedies, possible remedies to those in work groups. One of those remedy work groups will be on reparations. There'll be another on ending mass incarceration. There'll be another on ending war and ending NATO. So we expect about 50 people to come, and that is starting to build our base for our ordinance in Charlotte, Mecklenburg. So that is it for us with those particular updates. And now,
George,
yeah.
You didn't call on me.
Oh my goodness, Cape Cod, my apologies, Pat O'Brien. What's happening in Cape Cod in Massachusetts?
Well, it's nothing in Cape Cod, but I just wanted to tell you that Boston on Wednesday, City Council voted unanimously to create a study group on reparations this new term. So that is, a step in the right direction. The other thing I wanted to point out to people is that the Episcopal Diocese of Massachusetts has a reparations toolkit, and I don't know if I had mentioned that before, but if you go to www.diomass.org, there's an extensive toolkit about reparations and how to all different narratives and, the slave, all kinds of information that you can links to extensive information about what to do, how to, the history and so on of all of this. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. I also had wanted to
You got a minute, Pat.
Pat, I wanted to get Meadow Dibble to come from the Atlantic Box project to speak, but I have not managed to get in touch with her yet, but I will keep on trying about that.
Okay, then,
Thank you.
in our future meeting. And if you can put
Yes.
that link in the chat, that would be fantastic. Philip, you also mentioned a resource for the report that you talked about. If you're able to put it in the chat, that's great. Or you can email it to me and I will include it with the recording. Okay.
Excuse me, George. We're clearly, I think, gonna go over. So can we get people's permission for an additional possibly 5 or so minutes, whatever you think. But we usually have a hard stop at 3, Sister Henry, but we're clearly gonna go over. So George, could you make sure that everybody's okay with us going over for a few minutes?
Can everybody hang on until we're done? It may be 5 after, but we only have about 6 minutes at most of things left, depending on whether or not we have questions about our next item, which is, this is the last meeting of the year. It's my last meeting as your co-convener. I hope the election results aren't out, but I do hope and expect to be program committee co-chair as of the end of January. So that is a big responsibility on my time commitments. Thank you, Robin Lloyd. And I know that I need to step away from being the co-convener of this and other AHR subcommittees. So I have requested, and she has generously accepted, Fatima Perry Smith is willing to be the co-convener from now on. Do you want to say anything in a minute or so, Fatima or Teresa, since y'all will be the team now? Your choice.
I'll let Fatima unmute herself, but I will say something. We can't hear you, Fatima. Are you trying to say something?
Oh, I had a little trouble getting unmuted. Well, I look forward to it. This will be a new experience, and I think there's a great deal that can be accomplished.
Well, asking you to be co-convener was the only obvious thing to do with George transitioning off, because you're representing in Cobra, and I'm looking forward to us working together on making sure that people understand what our goal is to pass these ordinances by the end of the UN decade. This committee is called UN Decade Reparations, and that is the connection, because really at the end of the decade, we will probably go out of business because we do have a Black Liberation Caucus, Kenneth, and part of the charge of the Black Liberation Caucus is to continue fighting for reparations. So though this subcommittee may go out of business at the end of the UN decade, the Black Liberation Caucus will continue to work with other allies on the question of reparations. I just wanted you to understand that, Kenneth, because you're in the Baltimore area, and we do have a branch in the Baltimore area, Kenneth. And so shamelessly, I will say, please join the DMV branch of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. So that branch is definitely a part of this movement for reparations. So I wanted to get that out. Sorry, George. But I think we need to get consensus on accepting Fatima as the co-convener of this group. So George, would you do the thing?
Certainly. Is there anyone who has a concern about having Sister Fatima as the co-convener? Any concerns?
I just have a question.
About
Ms.
about
George?
the co-convener, Philip?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Can she identify the branch or that she's affiliated with and or, you know, well, the branch and basically she at large or Jane Addams or I don't think there's a New Orleans branch.
You're right.
Oh,
Go ahead.
we're in the process of organizing the branch. So I guess you would say I'm temporarily at large, but I guess the proper title would be branch organizer at this New Orleans branch organizer at this point.
That's right.
Myself along with Sister Kim.
That's right.
Yeah, and so since the last time we talked about building the New Orleans branch, Kim Ford, who is in New Orleans, has already joined Brother Philip. So she's just a few people away, and I'll be coming to New Orleans to connect you with some of my friends in New Orleans next year. I just got a trip, so I'm coming to New Orleans. So we will have the branch hopefully by the spring of 2023.
Very good. So I'm going to re-ask the question. Are there any concerns about having Sister Fatima as the co-convener? Any unrest? Anyone who wants to stand unrest? I hear you, Pat O'Brien. Do you have any?
I was like, I unrest. I hadn't heard that one before, and I really think it's wonderful. Thank you.
And anyone want to stand aside on this?
The question is usually any objections, to be clear. So
Thank
if
you.
there are no objections, then I think we have consensus.
If you have objections, this is the time. That was the second call. All right, then. Yay, we have consensus.
Can we thank you, George, for your competency of coordinating this committee? You have been a hero.
I have been competent.
A shero.
Competent. Shero is a bit much. Competent, I will take, with the occasional really stupid mistakes as humans do make.
No. No qualifications, please.
Fine, I'll take it. So we can
Thank
end. And our next meeting is January 19th. And even though I won't be y'all's co-convener, and I'm really grateful about that, I will attend meetings, hopefully in my official capacity. All right, God bless. Have a great end of the year. Be well. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.